Teachers can use many different ways to use formative assessments. With the book Pirate Diary, The Journal of Jake Carpenter by Richard Platt, I decided to use a different style of trying to figure out what students knew and how they use their knowledge to be able to write. I'll give you an example of what we worked on. What do characters say, think, or do? We chose, and I let them choose which ones they wanted to choose, which characters they wanted to follow throughout the text, and decide what those characters said, thought, or did. And this would help us to understand how the character was developed. Here's some examples about Bart and the story. Some detailed information about Bart. We specifically focused on just what the characters said, thought, or did. And here's some examples of what they noticed about Will. And as the time went on, the interesting thing about this story is that we thought Will had died, and so they decided that they wanted to illustrate this death. And they chose to do this line here, this black line, that would represent his death. But then we found out later he didn't die. And so they wanted to symbolize that, and they symbolized that with this blue, which it looks rather green here, but to symbolize he wasn't dead. And so this kind of helped us to understand the different parts of the character and how the character developed throughout the story. Then we did what we noticed about Noah. Noah was one of the main characters in the story, and there's their post-it notes, and each of us we took one character that we really focused on, and then when we found other information, we added that to our information as well. We wanted to get all the information we could. I'm going to see if I can get far enough back that you can see it all together. And then we took this information and we decided at the end to write about our characters. And here's some examples of students writing. This is one student's writing about Noah. And you can see his thinking has developed quite a bit. This is a student that wouldn't maybe write more than a few sentences for something, and here he's written quite a bit about Noah. Matter of fact, he came back later and wanted to write an additional amount. And then another student wrote this. I think this is key to show that these students, just by mapping out information, were able to write a much more detailed information about the characters. You can see that we're still struggling with things like punctuation and such, but this can be used, and I'm using it, to help us to be able to build on future writing pieces. This is really the first writing that these two boys have done for me, and so this gives you kind of an idea of where we're at, but using different angles to assess where students are at and to determine what are our next steps in our learning.